Now you just get to the left. Oh, yeah. So when I think about Mojo, I think about something illuminating. I think about something life-giving. I think about something positive. I rarely think about death. And that was the case when I sat down at this restaurant with one of my best friends at Bald Head Island, which is in the Outer Banks, and I see her once a year, and we never go out to dinner. But she wanted to go, so we went, which I thought was odd, but then I got it. When we sat down at the restaurant, the name of the restaurant was Mojo's, and I was like, oh! And she didn't know, but 2 days earlier, I had grabbed the theme for this SheSpeaks out of the ether and wrestled it to the ground, and it was Mojo's. So when she got up and went to the bathroom, I engaged the owner of the restaurant in the story of how she came to name this place Mojo's. And I thought the story would go something like this. Well, my husband and I hit it really big in the 80s in Wall Street, and we made a ton of money, but it was a rat race. So we wanted to jump ship, and we grabbed all our money, and we cashed out. We came down here to the island, and now we just listen to Jimmy Buffett all day. And I thought that was going to be our story because it had that vibe to it. We were outside. It was summer, and we were drinking beer. No, it wasn't that at all. It turns out that this woman and her husband are grandparents to twins, Morgan and John, Mojo, right? And their twins had met with a tragic car accident and had died. It's okay, you were laughing. Everybody goes, oh, I'm so sorry I laughed. The twins had died in a car accident at the age of 6. And together with her partner, they moved down to this place on Bald Head Island, and they wanted to name the restaurant after their 2 grandchildren to bring a little happiness, a little joy to their corner of the world, or in this case, their island. Mojo, right? And so it was so interesting that it took the death of their grandchildren to literally give birth to their Mojo. And I was reminded in hearing this story not to jump to conclusions of it, because it was such a different story than I expected. But I was also reminded that Mojo can live in some really unlikely places, and it doesn't always have to be heavy and dark. So I have this really good friend who travels a lot for work, and so does her husband. And for periods of time, they can be away from each other for 3 to 4 months. And this was the case where he had come home, and some people in the room know this woman, so I'm trying to clean it as I go. And so her husband came home, and they said, listen, we need to do something as a couple. We need to bond. We need to find something where we're just the 2 of us, and it's not the kids, and it's not work, and it's not homeowners, and whatever. Let's just reconnect, and let's learn something together. And so they said, let's learn golf. And so they tried to find a golf pro and get some golf lessons, and that was just falling through. So they were putting their heads together in their kitchen one night, trying to say, you know, what could we do that we could do sort of together? And as they were talking at night, they heard their rooster, whose name was Bob, going nuts in the backyard, making all this noise. And they kind of looked at each other knowingly, because Bob, they've been having trouble with Bob, and Bob was starting to get out of control. So not only was Bob crowing at all hours of the day now, because I thought roosters just crow in the morning, but this guy was making noise all day long, and the neighbors were complaining. And the other thing is he was getting really aggressive with the hens and violent with them when he was roostering. And so it was starting to cause some damage to their hens. And so my friend looked at her husband and she said, it's time for Bob to go. And what followed from that proclamation was this highly unorthodox date night. Unless you know this couple, and then you know it was just perfect for them. And I won't go into the details of that, but I will grab that concept. It's time for Bob to go. Because here's the thing, in my line of work and the work that I do, I encounter death all the time. In fact, death is something I gravitate toward. I was told, oh, you're a Scorpio. Yeah, you like death. But it's not a dark thing. It's a thing that you have to go through to get to the other side. So my work hinges on something dying a lot of times. My work with other people, and my work with myself. An attitude dying, a strategy dying, a relationship dying, an organization dying, a commitment that has been made, a way of being that is outdated and old and no longer serves you. It's time for Bob to go. One of the things I've come to appreciate, truly, and I call bullshit on this constantly, is I think we chronically underestimate our capacity to let things go. I think we're a lot better at it than we give ourselves credit for. And I've seen it time and time again, of relationships, of commitments, of friends, of other things, but it's things that have outserved their purpose. And sometimes it's simple as a matter of calling a time of death on something, right? It's time for Bob to go. So there's an author that I love, John Parkin, who wrote a book called Fuck It. Great book. Great book. And I had it on my kitchen counter the other day, and my 10-year-old was like, that says fuck. I went, fuck it, yep. And I explained to him what I will tell you now, which is that the author explores this concept, this Eastern concept of surrender, right? And as Westerners, we often bemoan and struggle with how hard it is to surrender and to let go of control and to put things down. And the Easterners just really do it well, but we really struggle with this in the West, right? And he says bullshit, basically. Because if he said it not so fast, if you listen to every time someone says, fuck it, they're actually surrendering. They are actually putting down. They are letting go their hold on something that no longer serves them. And in doing that, they're giving in to the flow of life. And so it seems that fuck it, in his mind, is a spiritual concept. And I stand up here saying that to you now, and I am having these flashbacks to being in my 3rd grade guidance counselor's office when he said, it's not ladylike to swear. And I also have my parents in my ear, all my parents, who are all, I come from a long line of word people. We love words. And I was brought up to believe that people who swear is because they don't, with all the words out there that you can choose, why would you choose to swear? They must not know a lot of words. And so people who swear are actually not that intelligent. And so you know what? I'm saying fuck it to all that shit. And I'm putting that aside. And I'm swearing might very well be a gateway to get to your mojo. And I see this, thank you. I see this time and time again. I love when I hear my clients swear, and they do. It's often my key description of my client base. Do you swear? Because, like a woman in labor, when the baby is crowning and she is spread open as wide as she can, and she's like, I'm gonna die, that's when the midwife's like, yep, the baby's gonna be here in about 20 seconds. So when I'm working with someone and they say, fuck it, and they put it down, or they swear, whatever their swear of choice, flippin', whatever their choice is, I tune my ear to what comes out right after that swear, and we pounce on that together, because that is what matters most. Our next speaker of the evening she's no stranger to swearing, and she's no stranger to breaking the rules, but she never before put those two acts together and connected it with her deep spirituality. And she's never done so before publicly, before tonight. So put your hands together for a warm welcome for our next speaker, all the way from Queens in New York City.